Hey, I'm Reggie Ponder, the Real Critic, and this is the Real Critic Roundtable, where black critics come to discuss, debate, and have fun. Uh, Sometimes have fun. But this week, I have a critic for a minute for you guys, and let me just say this. Is before I introduce my guest, I want to talk about something that's been on my chest. Oh, I forgot. You said don't have them bars. I forgot about that, Sean. My bad. But we've talked about this before, but I have to shine some light on this thing again. I needed to get the movie Over the Moon. And I felt some kind of way about the response I got from the PR people. Uh, and, and, and I don't know. They reminded me, they said, look, this is only for you and don't share it with anybody else. Maybe I'm just a bit scarred and battered as I've been fighting to see so many different films this year that I have what I'm terming a PR disrespect fatigue. I'm tired, man. Is that how hard you got to work? It's funny to me. I thought that this year, in the year of electronics, that I'd get all the movies I need to get. It'd be easier than working with the people that you work with on a daily basis. But it's harder, and that's saying a lot because it's hard working with the people. I don't know. I don't even know what the answer is. I don't know if the answer is excellence. You know, just kill it. Just do the best job you can do. But I think excellence doesn't trump all. Just killing it and doing your thing, I don't think trumps all. I want to say to these people, don't call me. Don't call me during the war season. But I'd be hurting myself because this is how I make a living.
Yeah, don't do that.
I'd be hurting myself. I got to see the movies. I got to talk about the awards. I need to do all that. And there's so many things that I think that the studios need to do, but they won't if they can continue to kind of treat us like they're subjects, like they're the kings and queen, and they're treating us like the subjects. I think that the revolution is coming, but I don't think it's coming to a big screen near you. That's my critic for a minute. Let's get into it. Hey, today we got on my panel, first we're going to bring up Sean Edwards.
Hey, what's up, Reggie? Thanks for inviting me back to the show. We can fix your situation real easy. Actually, a couple of things. It's called being strategic. It's called networking with the right people. It's called calling me. I will definitely help you. And this is where we need like critics groups to assist. I mean, that's the whole function of having a Critics' Choice Association, African American Film Critics Association, a New York Film Critics Circle, or to help the journalists who are parts of those memberships, you know, navigate when it's time to navigate with studios and streamers and agencies and PR firms. So we will definitely take care of that. We'll do it properly. We'll do it behind the scenes where it needs to be done, and we will get it all corrected because this show is fire, and we will help you get access to all the movies and TV shows you need to get to. But it needs to be done properly, and I will definitely assist with that. But in the meantime, I'm Sean Edwards, Fox 4 News film critic, co-founder of the African American Film Critics Association, and current board member on the Critics' Choice Association. So I definitely have the influence that can definitely help you out.
So you said that, and I appreciate it. Katia said
that.
And Katia said that as well. But
actually, easy fix.
Introducing my girl, Katia Woods, in the house.
Hey, Reggie. I don't have that hard of a time. I only have a problem with one person, and that person thinks they are like repping, I don't know, Paramount. And when their movie goes plastic, it'll be on her because she's really not a nice person. But neither here or there. I still had a wonderful week. I still saw a lot of movies, some good, some bad, and I'm Katia Woods. And I have my own site called Cup of Soul Show. Like Sean, I am a member of Critics' Choice, and we are in the thick of award season with documentaries, and I'm on that committee, and that's been a lot of fun working on that. I'm also an after member, and I'm happy to be here. And you know what, Reggie, keep fighting the good fight, because you know what you're saying is correct. And you know, everybody put up a black square, and I said, it's time to show and prove, not put up a black square. So it's time to show and prove.
Love that. And then bringing up the rear, but not bringing up the rear, is Brandon Collins joining us for the first time. Hey, Brandon, welcome, man.
Thank you so much for having me, Reggie. I really appreciate it. My name is Brandon Collins. I have a movie review podcast called Medium Popcorn that's Rotten Tomatoes credited. I don't know why they did that to themselves because they got to transcribe it and we say insane things, but we have a lot of fun reviewing movies. I've been in love with movies ever since I was a kid when I was the only child of a single, mother. And so movies were kind of my escape, right? And so I'm incredibly excited to be on here talking to you folks. I'm also an African member and I've been recently covering a lot of film festivals, which, like Katya said, some good and some not good, like ridiculously bad. But
yeah,
it's okay.
We'll talk offline about what if we saw the one I saw last night, and I was like, wow, I want my 2 hours back.
There's definitely a lot to see, and with that, our first movie for today is Borat. What subsequent something? What is this, Sean? Tell us what this film is, dude.
Well, it's more like it actually plays more like a mockumentary than an actual film. But yeah, it's called Borat subsequent movie film. It's the second one. The first one was in 2006, and it's Sacha Baron Cohen doing his alter ego character Borat. Borat's a fictional journalist from a Eastern European country who comes over to the United States as a journalist to sort of cover the American culture, more specifically American politics. Now, in 2006, this was sort of a fresh concept. Sacha Baron Cohen's his routine was sort of new. It was clever. It was fresh. It was often funny, outrageous. It just hit because in 2006 we needed something like that. Remember, in 2006 we were still in George Bush's presidency. So it was kind of easy to poke fun at, the Republicans and George Bush and, all of his policies. And it worked. But it's 14 years later. And sadly, the reason why the film doesn't work as effectively as it did in 2006 is because American politics is a lot more insane. And it's hard to be more bizarre than the current realistic climate of American politics. So
Not be so quick to knock that. It has a very important moment in there.
Okay, I'll let you go. Okay, let me finish. Okay, I'll let you go. I'm just saying I'm not saying the film didn't work. I'm just saying it's a lot harder to be as fresh as the 2006 version because
the shock value didn't hit it hard.
No, yeah, the real life stuff that's going on. It's hard. It's hard to top that. But there are some moments that are funny. There are some moments that are shocking. There are some bizarre moments. I actually thought the actual plot of the film was more bizarre than any of the jokes or the stunts because the whole thing with his daughter and that whole transition was kind of creepy.
I gotta say, the daughter, whoever they got to play the daughter, like that was great because she went almost full method like he did, and she was out of control. And I actually really appreciate that. I thought
she almost was so out of control, she almost stole the show.
Yeah.
But that said, no, it's not as great as the movie that came out in 2006. It's not a dud, but you definitely can't say it's fresh anymore.
All right, Katya, you trying to chomp at the bit on this one?
Let me just tell you, everybody has a purpose in life. And why this movie may not be as fresh as 2006. Rudy. It does what it needs to do when it comes to that guy. And that's super important because that guy has been running around on our TV stations talking about, morals and all of things. And all of us that live on the East Coast, especially those of us that grew up in New York or near New York, know that Rudy is not a good guy. And, just to see, and I'm still like, somebody needs to solve this mystery for me, how he keeps getting women because he's not good looking and I don't think he's that rich. But that's a whole nother show. But the point is, I did enjoy that part.
You did.
It's not bad to have a microphone removed. Rudy, you were doing some, you just doing some kinky stuff and you got caught on film. But I do love this. And also, here's the thing is, we know this movie came out in 2006, and yet he still got people to do the foolery. Like, the fact that he still was able to con people into doing stuff, it's like, where have you been living? So I don't feel bad for anybody that says that, I didn't know, or I wasn't familiar. We got the internet in our phones, people, so you knew who you were dealing with. Again, I do agree with Sean, it's not as fresh, but it is, to me, these types of movies are tongue in cheek. We're not looking for new revelations. And I watch it for more or less to say, oh, who's he gonna get? And he got Rudy in a good way, and it makes for fun. And also, I feel like if there's a good political pundit, Lincoln Project, go at it, have a good time with that.
So what's interesting to me though, Katya, is that he does get to prank all the people that he's trying to prank. That somebody lets him in their house, that the babysitter and their discussion. And these people actually, I think they come off really well in terms of these regular people who are not actors and how they interact with him. I think the thing that I glob on to what Sean said is that because of what the climate is, you can't do anything that's going to make me say, wow, that's shock value based upon what has been happening with this current administration. And I think the shock value, at least for me, some of the shock value, there's the dance scene with him and his daughter. Some of that shock value is just shock value. It doesn't push forward the story for me. Brandon, jump in.
Well, I'm just saying, like, I agree with that, Reggie, because I feel like the horror that we're all living through, like, vastly goes over, like, everything that they were trying to do to, like, rile us up. Everything. I mean, I'm thinking about the first time I saw Borat. I mean, I had never seen anything like that except for, like, maybe the Jackass movies. And I was just like, whoa, like, I remember being in college, like, this is crazy how they, like, do this. And now, you know, it is 14 years later. And so that's kind of how he was able to get those small town folks. But at the same time, it's like, okay, we've seen this before. There's a bunch of shows like this. He also had the Showtime show, Sacha Baron Cohen. I mean, for me, this is more like a showcase of him and his talents than it was for, like, Borat to be like, you know, this thing that everyone talks about again.
Well, another problem with this film, too, is the people that he pokes fun at, we see that on a daily basis in news coverage. So that's sort of like crazy mentality, hick underculture that was shocking in 2006 isn't shocking anymore because we're dealing with Trump supporters all the time. I mean, is it going to be any more shocking than watching a Trump rally than having some, you know, newscaster interview people while they're still supporting Trump? Like the crazy's been exposed. You got to remember in 2006, another reason that made that movie so great is for the first time he sort of exposed the underculture, and you were like, oh my God, there are people who live in America who really think like that. Well, we've had 14 years of that. We know there are people in America who think like that. So, like when he was like in quarantine with the two guys, that would have been tremendously shocking in 2006. That's just
and really funny.
Yeah, and really funny. It's just not. It's not funny in 2020.
It's just not as funny. And so for me, there were a couple of times where I actually laughed out loud. I was like, "Now that's funny." So I thought it was, you know, he did good with the pranks. He was decent with the laughs.
Okay with the pranks.
He was consistent. I think trying to make these messages as he was going through, but it didn't gel to be, for me, interesting for me to say to somebody, man, look, you need to watch this one, or impactful.
But Sacha Baron Cohen even knew it as he was making the film, because that's why he had to use so many different disguises this time, because he even knew that just going in as Borat was not going to work this time. It was not going to be as shocking. You're not going to catch as many people off guard. So he had to create several more disguises in order to pull this off. So he even knew that internally as he's making this happen.
And I think for me, that's also why, like, it wasn't as innovative as maybe, like, you know, a new audience would think it is, just because a lot of those characters are very similar to characters he's done in the Showtime show. So I was kind of like, HBO, you know, HBO, sorry. HBO. And I was just kind of like, oh, all right, you know, that works. But I've seen this before from Sacha Baron Cohen. I was more impressed with him from the, you know, Chicago 7 than I was. Like,
I think what steals the thunder, we have Comedy Central right now. The Daily Show does this every single day, and they do it in a way where they're still being fresh and they are still finding the dumbest people in the world. But just when you think they found them, they seem to find dumber people. But again, I did enjoy this for what it was.
That.
You know, I mean, I think it's great it's coming into our home. I don't necessarily think I would spend money or tell someone else to spend money in a theater to see it. But, and again, for me, I did also enjoy the fact that Rudy was on there just making a total ASS out of himself. And it will be out there for forever.
That is funny, and I think that brings us to the end of the conversation. You said that you wouldn't pay to see it. I definitely wouldn't pay to see it. I did look at some of the collective sites where actually it was getting some pretty decent reviews, but maybe it's a taste thing. But it didn't. It didn't hit me. What do you think, Brandon? Watch this one.
I would pass. Honestly, like the wife and I, we watched this right after we watched this Blumhouse film on Amazon Prime called Evil Eye. And that was way more, I mean, obviously it's different genres, but that was way more interesting and innovative than what I saw in Borat. I laughed maybe twice out loud.
Me
and the
too.
rest of the time I was just kind of like nodding my head like, yep, that makes sense.
Cool. Sean, watch it.
No, it's a hard pass.
Hard pass.
That's a hard pass. I mean, I didn't laugh at all. Go back and watch 2006, or really just watch national news coverage. I mean, because the people who like it, it's basically falling along political lines. This isn't going to change anyone's mind about who they're going to vote for, who they follow, who they support. I mean, yeah, Rudy Giuliani got caught, but to the extent of it, it has zero impact.
We can watch that clip on YouTube. But I want to say, Sean, I don't recall, so I'm gonna have to go back for 25 episodes and see. I don't recall you saying a hard pass. Oh my goodness, y'all just take a picture because Sean said a hard pass on that one. All right, we're gonna move on to our next movie. This movie is Over the Moon. Katia, tell us what this one's about.
Oh, I so love this film. I think Netflix is doing everything that DreamWorks wanted to do in this animation space. It's about a young Asian girl who her mother tells her this fable, and she believes in it 100%. They have a business, a dumpling business, I believe, and her mother passes. And it also talks about, she's a science geek, a math geek, and it deals on how she deals with her mother's loss, and she believes in that fable, and she's trying to get to the moon, to a planet, so she can reconnect with her mother. But what I love about this film is, number one, its representation matters so much, because there are going to be so many little Asian girls that see themselves in her, and it's cool for girls to be in the math and science. I love that she built this rocket ship, and she has her relationship with her father, who's played by John Cho. It's also cast very well. The other thing is the attention to detail. I said this to the Netflix people. The animator that animated her, the young girl, the haircut, it's little details like that to personalize it and make it more warming. And we talk about family. We talk about a lot of heavy stuff in this show. This is a great family film. Sometimes kids' films don't necessarily appeal to us as adults. This is something that, I think you can enjoy. You don't need to have kids in order to enjoy this film. And again, when you allow the community to tell its stories and finance it, then you have good results.
So I have to jump in here and tell you that the animation for this, I usually don't even talk about this kind of stuff like directing. The animation for this was really good. There were times when you would just see the character just breathe like a sigh, but there were no move, and it felt real. It looked real. Some of the looks that she gave her parents and all that. I didn't even know that this was directed by an Academy, because I try not to read that stuff before I go and check it out, that it was directed by an Academy Award winning animator and done by an Academy Award winner animator. So I love the animation in this one. Sean, jump in.
No, I like this movie a lot. I think you guys both touched on it. It's visually stunning. I did like the animation. It's proof that Pixar isn't the only animation company that can produce quality feature-length stories. The storytelling in this one is strong. I like the fact that it's an entirely Asian cast. It's a little girl who's in love with math and science. You can never go wrong with that. But I also agree that she will inspire more than just Asian girls. I think she will inspire Black girls, Hispanic girls, white girls, and guys and boys, everybody, because it's just the way it's done. It's universally told. So I commend it for that. Anything that can help, get people, encourage people to enjoy math and science more. I am 100% a fan of, and this film does that very effectively. The best thing in the movie is when she's actually flying to the moon. I thought that was really well done. It's
See,
great.
I thought that was good, Sean.
It was
I
great.
thought that was good, but I loved her on Earth more. But go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I
Visuals,
thought that was the, I thought that was the, I thought in terms of, you know, creating energy and excitement, that was the best scene. Now, the bookend of the film, the bookends take place in modern day China. I love those touches as well. I mean, they were very realistic. They were authentic. They created a terrific family dynamic. They touched on a lot of like family and human issues in a way that not only young people can comprehend, but adults will enjoy. So that's very effective in the writing. I also like the fact that once she gets to the moon, it turns into a rave that would have been produced by Elton John and inspired by Donna Summer and goes totally berserk and crazy. And I was asking for someone as I was watching it, can I get my Molly too? It got real trippy real fast, but it didn't bother me. But I also love that the filmmakers pack a lot in what is a real quick and loaded 99-minute film.
Hey, Brandon, did you need a Molly for this?
Oh no, I really enjoyed this, and like to Sean's point, it was quick and it felt fun. My wife and I really enjoyed watching this. We kind of wish that we had our godkids with us because we were like, oh, they would, especially the young daughter, she would have loved this because she's very creative and into math and science. And so I was like, oh, next time we have them over, like we'll definitely put this on. And Dakota Katsuya's point, representation is like, I always look for a film that has a diverse crew that I don't usually see in a typical movie. And this gave me that. And the animation is fantastic. I mean, the director is a former, Disney animator, so they had some, they got their bones. But I really enjoyed this, and I think Netflix is killing it right now with like the children and family entertainment.
Yeah, I will tell you is that one of the things that go ahead, Katya, you go.
I was going to say my favorite animated film last year was Klaus, and I feel as though they got robbed and in the award season. Do you know what I mean? In that terms, and that's definitely a movie that I feel like should become part of the family conversation, especially around the holiday season. And and again, we didn't didn't delve into this cast. You have John Cho, you have Philippa Sue, you've got Ken and Margaret Cho. These are steady, Asian actors of different Asian countries, because I'm so tired of people thinking that when we talk about Asia, it's China, Japan, and Korea, and Asia is way bigger than that. And to see them, it's also, like I said, is the understanding to have these different representation within the Asian community make up this cast, I think is really, really important, because I think they get lost in this conversation, in my opinion, when we talk about representation, because again, we feel like, oh, we've had these Chinese movies, or we've had these Korean movies, or we've had success with directors like Akira Kurosawa, who's Japanese. Oh, therefore the community has been taken care of, and that's not the case at all, because it's way bigger than these three countries. So for them to understand is we need to pull like the all-stars, and also from different aspects of the Asian community also speaks volume, and it's done in a way where it doesn't seem political. You can hire good people without seeming like, look at us, we're good, we're listing everybody off the checklist.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I want to say that I also felt that this was a very imaginative film. So the thing that for me, when you, Brandon, said that your godchildren will like it, is that they could kind of think beyond just the straight story. Even though I liked when they were in China, the stuff there, I love that, the way it looked and the way it flowed. I do think that the imagination piece was really important. What I want to say to Sean, though, is that he didn't say something that he said last week, and he didn't say it was a great film. And before he says something on this, is that this is a good film for me, just short of great for me.
Yeah, no, it's not. No, it's not great. No, it's a very good. No, it's very good. And we haven't talked about the one thing that I think really made the film work, which is I love the fact that it's a musical And there are 8 original songs, and I like the fact that the songs didn't go the route of like a Frozen where they're, you know, super corny and sappy. They actually added to the depth of the story. But this is a musical, and the songs are good.
Yeah, your point. And so when I'm I actually had to put the closed caption on. So when I was looking at the lyrics, the lyrics they didn't try to make the lyrics rhyme. So, you know, they wanted to tell the story of it, and I really like that as well. Brandon, last thought on this one.
Well, I just to the music, I've been going down this weird rabbit hole with BTS trying to figure out what they're saying in these songs, and it was really nice to just see like songs with lyrics where I'm like, oh, okay, I can follow this. I can follow the narrative. This isn't really random.
So is this a watch it for you, Brandon?
Oh, absolutely.
Would you watch it again?
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I will, especially like once I have kids over in my house post-pandemic.
All right, Katya, is this a watch it for you?
Oh, absolutely. And not just for the kids. If you're an adult and you like animation, throw that bad boy on.
Sean, is this a watch it for you?
Yeah, it's definitely a watch. It's a watch with or without kids. Like I said, it's a very good film.
This is really a very good film, and for me, it definitely is a watch it. And I'm just gonna do full disclosure right here. I'm gonna watch it again this weekend because
why not?
It was good. It was good.
Good movie.
All right, moving on to our next movie. So this week's movie is the movie called The Witches, and what we have here is we have a boy with a grandmother who tries to convince him that witches are real. They leave their home to avoid the witches, only to go to the hotel where the witches conference is. So now they caught up in all the witchery that you can get
caught up in Usher.
that you can get up into. The young boys is voiced by Chris Rock, even though he's actually played and has his own voice. But there's this narration by Chris Rock there.
Dude, that's the starting point of all the problems.
It's very confusing why Chris Rock is narrating this as that character.
Jump in, Brandon.
I'm just saying, like, I love The Witches. I read the Roald Dahl book growing up. I saw the original with Angelica Houston that freaked me out as a kid. I heard about the casting. I'll tell you, Spencer, Chris Rock. They're gonna have a young black kid in the lead role. I'm like, I can't wait for this because this is what I would have loved as a kid seeing this film. And I gotta say, I mean, the performances were very uneven for me. Anne Hathaway was at like a 12 for some reason, and everyone's like kind of like operated 8 to 9. And then the animation got really wonky towards the end. Did anyone like that?
Yes.
And I felt like they gave up on the budget like halfway through because the third act, I'm like, why are these effects so undone? And it feels so rushed. Like, what's going on here? This is Robert Zemeckis. Like, he gets these big budgets to do this stuff. So I was very underwhelmed and disappointed, to be completely
Remember the Dave Chappelle skit when keeping it real goes wrong? This movie is an example of when inclusion goes wrong. It felt like I loved it on the surface, but when you watch the movie, it felt like they tried too hard because they flipped it where now the young boy is black, which I'm here for. And they changed the setting to Alabama, and they changed the timestamp to like late 1960s. And it just, on paper, that sounds like that's the right thing to do. That's the cool thing to do. This would really up the ante with this story. But as you're watching, it all felt forced. And I agree with you on Anne Hathaway. It's like before she shot each scene, she had a double dose of Mountain Dew mixed with Red Bull mixed with Adderall. Because man, she was at a man. And this is the type of role Octavia Spencer can do in her sleep. She could walk through this, and it still could be good. So, there were moments that I liked, and there were a few moments that I loved, but there were also a lot of moments of disappointment.
It's so interesting you would say that. Excuse me, Brandon, for a sec. It's interesting you say that because in my review I said that it had a little bit of scary, but it wasn't really too scary. It was a little bit of funny, but it really wasn't too funny. It was a little bit of interesting, but it really wasn't too interesting. And it was a little bit of fun, but it really wasn't too fun.
It's all over the place.
So they didn't get it to all come together. I want to get to Katya, but go ahead, Brandon.
Oh no, we can go to Katya. I just was going to throw like the tone was really uneven. Like it was like I asked myself several times, who was this for? Because it's a little too dark for a really young
It
kid.
got dark. It got dark.
And then it's like too fantastical and childlike for like adults to really like resonate with it unless you're a fan of the story. So I was just very confused by the tone.
Oh boy. I'm sick of remakes, and this is a perfect example of why you need to leave stuff that works alone. If George Clooney said it better. If you're gonna make a remake of a bad movie and make it better. Take a concept from that someone had, but they didn't execute it properly. But it was a good concept. The base was good, and then remake that. Stop remaking things that are classic. The original worked. And it worked for all the reasons why this one didn't. And it's a shame because you wanted this to be successful because a young Black boy was in the lead. Anne Hathaway has been up and down lately in these performances, and this is one of them. I wanted her gone. I want everybody gone. I want the little boy run away and the movie to be done with. Like, I was really over this. And with Halloween coming up, and again, you would think they would think about, okay, especially, not that they knew we were going to be in that pandemic, but this movie was not enjoyable to me. I did not like it. I would not recommend it to see it. I want my time back. And again, I expect more from Robert Zemeckis, way more than this. And again, I understand why this was dumped, because even if this was normal times, I do not see how people walk out of this and say, "Oh, spend your money and go see it." It would have been a horrible word of mouth. And again, I feel like with Chris Rock, I get why they got him to narrate it, but also we got to understand is not everything is for everybody. And sometimes it's okay to go with someone who's better suited to this, that may not be as famous or as popular, than just to get a name to do something. And again, this was a lot of talent wasted. This was time wasted. That young man deserves another shot at a better movie.
It was very confusing having Chris Rock do like his old 1996 cadence as a narration for his children's movie. And then also, I don't think this is spoiling much, but when the mouse, he won't grow into having the Chris Rock voice. So the whole thing threw me off if I thought about logically. But that was just something that was left lingering in my mind.
So what's interesting to me, though, Katya, on this is that I actually think that people would go and be like, I had a good time, but they would come out saying, I wouldn't watch it again. So I think that because it is this Halloween, it's probably the right time for the movie. It's going to be some mild enjoyment. I'm not sure that people would say exactly not to see it, and I'm getting a little bit upset with you and Sean today, because Sean is like a hard no, and you're like,
that's on Borat though, not on this though.
Okay,
Actually, we have the original. Why do you need to see this trash can when the original is out there? Go watch the Netflix.
I kind of agree. It's HBO Max. I kind of agree with you though, Reggie. I think we're looking at this from a super critical POV. I actually think when you dissect it and you talk to real people that watch this, I think they're gonna find this a lot more enjoyable than we did, because we're paid to look for that's our job. We're paid to look for the flaws. We're paid to give it a more in-depth critical analysis. I just don't think anybody who's punching this up on HBO Max is gonna ding it that badly.
Brandon, looks like you're trying to get in.
Well, I was just in regards to when I mentioned Netflix, I was talking about the original is on Netflix, and so you could easily I rather bounce over there, because at least Angelica Houston, she was so grounded in her creepiness, whereas Anne Hathaway, like I said, just over the top, and I'm like, did she get directed in this, or is she just allowed to do her own thing?
She seemed like she was on espresso. Like, she took a couple Starbucks, and then they said, "Camera roll." We better go to Netflix and watch the original.
All right. Well, I think it's a no-see for Katya. It's for me, it's a trick or treat light. For me, for people who are trying to celebrate Halloween, hey, try it at your thing. Sean, your thought?
I don't highly recommend it, but I do not recommend it.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a glowing endorsement. Brandon.
I would say if you got nothing else to do on a Sunday afternoon and you got a little glass of wine, check it out.
All right, that's good. All right, so we're through with our movies today. We looked at 3 movies. We we started off with Borat, whatever that was. We moved on to Over the Moon, which all of us seem to like, and then we ended up with Witches, which seemed a little
Mixed.
a little mixed.
Mixed.
All right, so let's get into our segment called The Issues. Each week we talk about some of the issues that are happening in the industry, and our first issue is Amazon. Amazon is on a buying spree. I mean, they buying content like it's not nothing. They bought Borat. They did Without Remorse. They have One Night in Miami. And then they paid $125 million for Coming to America. Thoughts, guys?
They're playing. They have to. All the streamers do it. They just did it recently and got some attention for it. But they're playing a severe game of catch up. They have to buy content. Number one, they're not producing as much original content as Netflix or Disney Plus, which are the two top streamers out there. It's Netflix by a large margin, by a wide margin. Netflix is almost at 200 million subscribers worldwide. Disney Plus is already at 60 million plus. So they're playing a severe game of catch up. So they have to buy this content because they're not producing original content as fast. Then the pandemic hit, which slowed it down even more. So all the streamers are suffering in producing original content right now because the production schedule are behind. But I mean, their purchases make sense. I mean, it's not like it's anything record setting. It's just like Coming to America 2 was on a lot of people, a certain demographics radar. So that's like, oh, okay, they paid $125 million for Coming to America 2. But if you look at the expenditures on these titles, I mean, they match what Netflix and Disney Plus have done with other titles. So there's really nothing earth-shattering or record-breaking in what they're doing.
Thoughts, Brandon Katu?
I mean, it makes sense. These aren't terrible projects to have like in your, repertoire, especially if you're trying to get new subscribers and keep your current ones. I mean, One Night in Miami is fantastic. I've been singing its praises ever since I saw it at Toronto International Film Festival. Coming to America is the one that kind of personally just disappoints me a little bit, just because one, I have a comedy friend that's starring in the film, and similar to what happened with my friends who were in the King of Staten Island, it's going to a streamer, which I know they were really, really excited to be on the big screen, these debuts. And so for me, just like in a personal, thing that knows that what these guys' aspirations were, it's a bit disappointing. But at the same time, I'm hoping that they got compensated with this deal. I know that's probably why it's so much, to make sure that Eddie Murphy got his
$100 million
that he was definitely looking forward to. But nonetheless, I'm still looking forward to it. I have Amazon Prime, so Coming to America 2, once that pops up, I'm going to be watching it.
All right, Katya, thoughts? You care?
I mean, here's my issue with Amazon Prime. It's been my same issue. I think it's a great streamer in terms of content. They have some of the best content out there in terms of diversity, documentaries, original shows. That is not the problem. They have the money, and it's great that they're buying these things. And they also have Sylvie's Love. And there's a little situation going on between them dropping Sylvie's Love and One Night in Miami around the same time. And I hope that they don't do it. I hope that they stretch it out, because I believe both of those movies deserve eyeballs and both of those movies are good. But having said that, that is not the problem. We still need to learn how to market this stuff. Amazon has the money, but their marketing machine is crap compared to Netflix and compared to Disney. There's no point in having great product if the general public doesn't know. Of course, people are Coming to America because Eddie Murphy's in it. But this other stuff, like I said, is Sylvie's Love, is a smaller film, and you still have to get an audience to buy in. There's so much stuff every time I say it's on Amazon. People are like, I didn't know. I have Amazon Prime. Why is that not coming up on my screen? Why are they not telling me that this is new? So the marketing team, whoever is over there, they need to get some new blood. They need to get some new ideas.
They already have. They just hired.
But they're not doing a good job, Sean, because when the general public keeps saying they don't know, and we know it's good stuff, it's hard to sell bad stuff. That part I get. But when you have outstanding stuff and people keep missing it, then then your marketing team, whoever's over there, is not doing a good job.
They're about to accelerate. They just hired a couple of seasoned.
They need to. They need to fire whoever was over there and start all over again and get some blood.
Yeah, they're going to get better.
This award season, it's really going to say this award season. You've got good content. You can't just go based off of reputation. Spend the money. You have it.
Well, they
This
are
is not
on one
Neon
night.
or A24. If Neon and A24 can do a better job with less money on marketing than you, who has more marketing, that's a freaking problem.
Well,
they are spending right now on one night. They're doing a really aggressive job on
They did
one
better.
night in Miami. Yeah, well,
But
they,
again, that's
which is
one
good, which
project.
is
They
really
got 8 or 10 projects over there.
no, but
And
which,
we only are hearing about the one. Again, this is not Neon or A24 where they got to choose what is their best chances to win. Amazon has the money. They need to do better. And I don't care what anybody says, they have not done a good job with their marketing.
yeah, and Sean, I was going to ask you, being working from a studio perspective, this issue of 125, that actually didn't seem that much to me. Did the studio make their money back? Did Paramount? Do you think Paramount made their money back with 125 million?
well, that's the problem with these deals. I mean, all we know, that was the 125 to redirect the distribution. We don't know what the other monetary situations are with that particular title. Right now, Paramount's in a sell-off situation anyway, because you can tell there's a hint of desperation because they've cut deals with Netflix, they've cut deals with Amazon. I mean, Paramount's not going to be around 5 years from now. I mean, this was just a situation, and we don't know, because Eddie Murphy owns the rights to the film, so we don't know what the deal structure was, if this was an avoidance of theatrical, because basically all the studios have written off Q1 2021, and in the process of about to write off Q2 2021, which is why you saw a film like Candyman push all the way to August 2021, because they're giving up on first and second quarter of 2021. So we don't know if that was a situation, because they're looking long term on these deals too. And because they had waited so long to move Coming to America too, there was really nowhere for it to go in 2021. All the good dates are gone. I mean, dates are like real estate. I mean, they've been locked down for a while, and you can't, I mean, some of these projects you can't hold until 2022, 2023. So, I mean, we'll see how the deal structure plays out. For us as journalists, these deals are much more complicated to find out how they did on the back end, because you really can't track.
That's why
they did financially. Yeah,
that's why I asked you.
Hole. Yeah, it's not like the traditional box office numbers.
And you were saying that Paramount might not be around in 5 years. Well, hey, Brandon, Quibi is not.
I don't see how.
Quibi is gone, Brandon. What's your thought? I already know what Sean and Katya, I think. Katya going to say, oh, they had the greatest content. Sean going to say, I know they was going to go out. So what you say, Brandon?
I had the similar thought that it was going to go out. There was a comedy platform that had a similar concept that's online only. And I had a bunch of comedy friends that were like, yeah, I'm doing this project, but this app is going to shut down. And I'm like, oh, once I heard about Quibi, and even just getting the screeners for Quibi was a little bit of a pain. And I'm like, oh, this is not going to be good. So I was not surprised after 6 months that they're closing shop.
So you're going to get the last word on this, because I'm going to Katya, because I already know what you're going to say. It was Katya's thoughts.
And it's just one of those things where, again, good idea, poor execution, poor launch. Just because you have money for something doesn't mean that you don't still have to market it. You still have to connect with an audience. I'm a big person that always says, influencers need to get out of the areas where journalists should be. But this was an item where influencers should have been leading the way, should have been connecting, and they try to connect with journalists on this. I'm 50 years old. Who am I talking to in my community about apps and what is cool and what is 7 minutes and all that? People my age don't do that. We got things to do. But people my daughter's age this is what they watch stuff on. And that would have been perfect to connect with all these influencers, to connect with them, to have them do collaborations with their YouTube channels and all of that. And they missed the mark. So again, you can have and again, there was good programming on there. There was some really good stuff on there.
I knew she was going to say that.
They won a ton of Emmys.
They won Emmys.
They won Emmys. And hopefully the stuff that was good on there will find a new home in another outlet. But, that's hard to see because the shows are so short.
Yeah.
Again, Jeffrey Katzenbaum, have you not learned from DreamWorks? You need to understand who is it for. You're an old guy. This is where you bring in the 19-year-olds, the 20-year-old skippies who just play PlayStation all day. That's who you talk to.
The thing that gets me to what you're saying is that they had a lot of big big money backers in this one and people on it. So the fact that they couldn't figure out the way to make it work was really something. I want to get to our next subject. So Sean, you got the last word on this one.
I mean, it was designed to fail. Like I said, if you're going to do this type of content, you got to I mean, TikTok already exists. I mean, YouTube already exists. They gave all the deals to the wrong people. They should have given deals to the famous TikTokers and the top YouTubers. You don't give big money deals to Reese Witherspoon, Chrissy Teigen, and Kevin Hart on a platform like this. And you definitely don't want Jeffrey Katzenberg to be the spokesperson for something like this. And then they got crushed by the pandemic when everybody's sitting at home. You're not going to watch a feature-length movie on your phone. And I don't want to hit restart every 8 minutes to watch
that's a really good point. So with that, we're going to move into our last issue, which is actually a big issue. And it's really about the ability to have all these documentaries that are out that are focused on people of color. And Sean, actually, I want you to kind of introduce this subject because you brought this up, and I thought this was a good thing to talk about.
Yeah, I thought it was an excellent time to talk about documentaries and the fact that there are so many documentaries out right now, you know, about people of color, about the Black experience that are directed and produced by Black people. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because on Monday, the Critics' Choice Association Documentary Awards will announce its list of nominations. And right now, members of the Critics' Choice Association, we're in the middle of watching like a lot of documentaries. In the past 30 days, I think I've almost watched 100 documentaries. You know, I'm on the nominating committee, you know, I'm on the board. I mean, it's a great time for the organization. And just the fact that this is the 5th year that we're recognizing the best in, you know, documentaries, because the past 10 years, there's just been a tremendous wealth of nonfiction storytelling, a lot of which have talked about and covered the experiences of Black people around the globe. And there's so much good stuff out there. I don't even know where to begin. I just
so you know, I got a question
from you guys' favorites so far this year, because there's a ton. It's the most competitive category. It will be the most competitive category at the Oscars this year.
So you know, I have a question for you, and then I'll move on to Katya because she already peeped the fact that she watching a lot of these as well. Yeah. Is that my question for you is that you talk about Black documentaries, but are you seeing that you saw over 100, are you seeing the diversity within the diversity? And what I mean by that, are you seeing Asian, Latinx? Are you seeing? Yes. And I'm talking about in the kind of numbers that really make. You say yes with the strongest.
Yeah. It's documentary filmmaking represents the best of diversity. Well, and it's not even close, because these filmmakers are telling stories, some of which will never be feature films, they're fascinating, they're informative. I mean, they're powerful, they're moving, they're important, and they're covering a wide range of topics and subjects that people really need to know about. It's just a fantastic renaissance for nonfiction storytelling.
That's great. Katya, go ahead and jump in here, because I know you've been watching these documentaries. What have you been seeing?
I go to AFI Docs every year in Washington, D.C. So I particularly attend a festival that is dedicated to documentaries. It's one of the best run festivals. It's one of the best enjoyment festivals for me. And, you know, we are in the middle of doing this for Critics' Choice. And although I always feel like, you know, as people of color, it's our job to speak out for the minority creatives, you know, when we are doing these deliberations. And Lord knows, I definitely have fought for my people. And also, you know, I mean, just even prior to joining, I watch at least 300 documentaries a year. I'm a documentary nut. I love history. I was a political science major in college. You know, my favorite things to read are like biographies of historical people and things like that. So it's something that I've done my entire life. And to me, it's like this year and I agree with you on the best filmmakers are documentarians. To get people to open up about personal, really, and sometimes really hard subjects, stuff that is very difficult to talk about without, you know, and you've got to tread the line so it doesn't turn into like you're trying to exploit people. And at the same time, you're not trying to judge, because you have to be neutral. You have to show both sides. And sometimes you got to talk to some really not good people in order to expose the horrors of this world. You know, there's so many, and also most importantly, I think, you know, in our state where journalism is, You know, we literally are having to defend our profession because, you know, the commander-in-chief is saying that what we do is fake, which is such an insult. We have journalists around the world that are being killed, that are in prison for doing what we're doing right now, which is expressing an opinion, for speaking the truth. And there's some great documentaries that touch on him. I'm going to mention a
So
documentary.
before you do that, because I want to come around and actually have us talk about specific movies, I want to bring Brandon into the conversation. Brandon, documentaries, man.
Yeah, so I actually I haven't had a chance to watch too many documentaries this year, unfortunately, just because our podcast, we do like a lot of back and forth between new and old films, and sometimes don't really get to touch on documentaries. I mean, the specific one that really had a profound impact on me from the list that you shared, Reggie, was City So Real. You know, I really resonated with that. I'm not originally, like, I'm not from Chicago, but I'm from the Midwest. I'm from the Michigan. My family grew up in Detroit, and so I really like connected with that. Additionally, Storm Over Brooklyn, which I don't know if we were going to talk about, which is on HBO Max, a profound documentary about Yusuf Hawkins. And I watched it with my wife, who's a born New Yorker, and she had no idea about the story that happened, this terrible crime that happened in Bensonhurst. And that was just such a profound thing to watch, seeing that happen back in the 80s and seeing how relevant it is to now. And, I'm not going to lie, I was pretty depressed afterwards because I'm one of the people that's a little bit more pessimistic about, the future, at least for the next year or so. And so that definitely like hit me a little hard.
Well, I will say, and then Katya, I'm coming back to you for because I do want us to mention some of these documentaries because there's so many out there, and some of them are so riveting. I don't want to even say good. I'm talking about riveting, where you are watching it and you're watching it like this, and every moment means something to you. I'm glad that you mentioned City So Real. Obviously, that's from Chicago, and so City So Real. I know these people. I know Tony Prewinkle. I know, I don't know no Lori Lightfoot, but have been in her presence. So to see these people and to see the politics and to get inside look at that. Oh, I'm so glad what James did with this. What Steve James did with this. Man, really really great. I want to mention though 40 Years a Prisoner because it hurt me. I cried. I have to tell you guys, I really really cried because I remember the whole thing about Move and watching it on TV and seeing when they raided the house. It was that was a tough watch with some nice stuff to happen to kind of come out of that as you see the transformation of some of the people. But Katya, go ahead.
Well, 40 Years a Prisoner, I went to school. I moved to this country in 1981. I literally, I grew up in Central Jersey. When Mayor Good bombed the Move people live and direct in our living room, we saw that. You know what I mean? I did not know, as a person who's lived in the Philadelphia area for over 20 years, the original siege, which is what they're talking about in this particular documentary. I remember the bombing and I was like, holy crap, this is West Philly. Like, this is not Beirut. Like, this is happening like literally an hour away from us, and our city was on the map for all the wrong reasons. And this has been a continuous back and forth between the city of Philadelphia and the Move organization. This has been going on for a very, very long time. Also,
What's the because of we're looking at time, so we talked a little bit about 40 Years a Prisoner. What were, if you were to mention to me 3 documentaries that you believe that people should see, because you are the documentary lady, what would be those 3?
1,000 Cuts, which talks about the importance of freedom of journalism, freedom of the press, freedom of speech. Soul Man, wow. Learned so much in Soul Man. Like, so many people got their start on that show, and I'm mad that we don't know about it. You know, we always use Soul.
Mr. Soul.
I'm sorry, Mr. Soul. Sorry, Mr. Soul. We always talk about Soul Train, and we should be talking about this man.
That is huge.
That is huge, and our community doesn't know. The other one is the one on Greta. I'm Greta, and I think climate change is we need to get better educated. I think especially as Black people, we always think of climate change as something that happens in the environment out there in the Amazons or out there in California when there are fires, but it's literally in our backyard. This is the reason why our kids have asthma, and the list of a whole bunch of other reasons. And, you know, I just, again, encourage us to support. And I definitely do a thing where I reach out to my people and say, okay, hit play on this. This is coming here, watch it.
Yeah.
So, you know, these are three that really stand out. And
Excellent.
1,000 Cuts.
Excellent. Excellent. Sean, give me three.
I got to go with City So Real. I was just, you know, Steve James did Hoop Dreams. He's just a fantastic documentarian. That's enough said right there. I got to go with A Love Song for Latasha on Netflix. It's a short form documentary. It's only about 42 minutes long, but it's a powerful 42 minutes. And then, you know, I got to go with Mr. Soul. I mean, we always talk about the Arsenio Hall show, and we always talk about, you know, Soul Train. It was like a combination of the two. I mean, it was just fascinating to see this program that existed on public television just expose the audience to not just entertainers and not just musicians, but poets and political activists. And it was done in an unapologetic way. Just fascinating. And it's also co-produced by a dear friend of mine, Chaz Ebert. So the wife of late Roger Ebert.
Because this is so important, this section, I'm gonna see if I can get one more out of both of you guys. So I know you said, Brandon, you're not watching a lot of documentaries, so I'll ask Katya, can I get another one?
Disclosure. It's important for us to have a conversation about trans people and have them explain to us who they are, what it is, because there's a lot of ignorance still out there. And I think, again, we as a community, that's a conversation we need to educate ourselves better on. Because there are a lot of people of color, especially Black people in that documentary, telling you how when we say Black Lives Matter, they don't feel like they're included in that phrase. And, you know, we just had a trans journalist die. And, you know, Black trans women are dying at an alarming rate. And again, to me, it's like if you say Black Lives Matter, I mean everybody. I mean everybody in the diaspora. I don't just mean straight people. I mean all of us, because the people that hate us hate all of us. So I definitely think, you know, watch Disclosure, close your mouth, open your ears, and do some understanding and some learning. And hopefully you walk away wanting to be a better ally.
So I think that so one for me that might even help in this is Frida Got a Gun, and I think because it will show you a trans or someone from the LGBTQ community, but dealing with the same stuff that we all are dealing with on a regular basis, and it really gets deep into the mindset of young boys and what they're doing and what's happening in the community, and this whole conflict that we have between calling the police and not calling the police. Do we put up a camera here? We don't put up a camera here. Just all the things that happen there. So I would kind of throw that in with that because that will help. Sean, I'll ask you, can you give me a Latinx documentary that I gotta watch, man? Because
Because what? No, it's no because. It's people need to watch these, but Mucho Amor on Netflix. Just a fantastic documentary.
Fantastic.
I think on Monday, on the 26th, when the nominations are announced, you're going to hear this title a lot.
I second that. Walter Machado was an icon. He was an icon for the Latin community. He was global. You know, as I said before, my family's from Brazil, and people in Brazil know who he was. I mean, this was a phenomenon in the Latin household. He was Univision, which is a Spanish language channel, and it was the news. And then at the end of the news, he did their astrology. So think about it, like you watching whatever your news show is that you watch in your neck of the woods, and there comes this guy out in the cape, you know, like Superman, you know what I mean? And the capes are beautiful. And he's like, you know, Virgo, and he's giving you the thing, and he's like, you know, Sagittario. And if you have if you have friends that are Latino, and you have, you know, their tias and their abuelas and whatnot, you know how when your mama watches her show, her stories, your grandma used to watch her stories, dare to come in there and interrupt as they were talking about, as Walter's getting ready to give the astrology. Like, people really set their lives to it. And I think as a kid, I was like, what in the holy hell is going on this TV screen? My grandmother, who was a total religious woman, hung on Walter's word. And I was just like, who is this man in this cape? And it's a feel good. And another Latinx one is the one on Luis Miranda, who is Lin-Manuel Miranda, father, and his activism, and how him moving from Puerto Rico to New York, and how he's gotten, involved in politics and all of that, and his growth, and it informs also where Lin got a lot of his gusto from, because his father was huge in politics, still is. So out there is campaigning, especially this campaign season. And it's nice to see that picture, because again, when we speak of the Latin perspective, lately the conversation has been centered a lot on Mexico, and when we get a better understanding, I think, from this film on this whole conflict between the United States and Puerto Rico. So I definitely recommend it. Mucho more you should watch, because it will make
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it.
It will make you feel good. It will make you smile.
I haven't seen it, so that makes it exciting. Go ahead, Brandon.
Oh, no, I was just going to say I got to check out Mucho more and a bunch of these documentaries you mentioned, because my wife is Puerto Rican, so I know she would really enjoy watching these. The only documentary that we haven't talked about that I wanted to mention, because I watched it for TIFF, was Mlk Fbi, which talked about, J. Edgar Hoover and his weaponization of that department, and pretty much tried to disparage everything about Martin Luther King. I thought that, to be honest, like as a student, like that read a lot about African American history and civil rights, it wasn't surprising. Nothing was really new, but I definitely was like, oh, this is something that people need to watch, because you always get those counters like, oh, things weren't that bad back in the day, or like, the government doesn't try to take down our leaders and stuff. It's like, yeah, they do. They definitely did. And it also talked about, a lot at the time, people weren't really messing with Martin Luther King and his message. It wasn't this unifying thing that we say now. And I thought the documentary did a really good job of telling that, story.
I'm really glad you brought that one up, because a lot of times the only thing that our young people really know about Martin Luther King is they think that he was a kumbaya person, and that everybody was just holding hands because I have a dream is the only thing that we know. But we don't know anything about the letters from Birmingham. We don't know that he was considered a communist and a traitor to the country. We don't know that the FBI was doing all kinds of things behind the back of him and Malcolm X. So that this one is an important one as well. I'm very glad that you mentioned it. Look, guys, this is the Real Critic Roundtable. I'm Reggie Ponder, the Real Critic. This is where Black critics come to discuss, debate, and have fun. We discussed a lot, we debated a little bit, and we had a lot of fun. We'll see you next time.